Australian troops could start coming home from Afghanistan within months. The Prime Minister today laid out a timeline which is roughly in line with what the government has been indicating in recent months, but it does for the first time really spell out just what the government is thinking. It's awaiting an announcement from President Karzai in Afghanistan of when Afghan security forces will be able to take the lead role in security in the Uruzgan province, which is where the Australians are based. Then, once that happens, Australians can start coming home. Julia Gillard today, as we've seen, has said that the process will be a long one. It will take 12 to 18 months. By the end of it, we won't be doing the mentoring role we're doing now, and importantly, we won't be out on patrol doing some of that frontline combat with insurgents that has seen so many Australian casualties in Afghanistan. But is this a realistic timetable, and what sort of support will Afghanistan still need beyond that withdrawal timeline? Well, I spoke earlier this afternoon to Afghanistan's ambassador here in Australia, Nasir Andisha. He says that, yes, this timeline is in line with what Afghanistan is thinking, but there will still be a need for what he calls enablers, helicopters, intelligence support, and even Australian Special Forces beyond 2014. He also says there will need to be a political settlement with elements of the Taliban, that both sides in this war need to be able to forgive each other for peace to have a chance. Here's our full interview with the Afghan ambassador earlier today. Ambassador, thank you for your time. Can I ask you firstly just to describe how you see the security situation in Afghanistan at the moment?
Thank you very much. The security situation in Afghanistan is improving. I mean, people might think that what happened yesterday, the day before yesterday in Kabul, might not be a good evidence of what I'm saying, but overall the security situation in Afghanistan is improving. The spring we have had the first month of spring officially in Afghanistan, but we haven't seen a major spring offensive, save the one we had yesterday. And all the statistics shows that this year is going to be a better year than what we had previous.
And what about in the Uruzgan province, particularly where the Australian forces are?
Even the Uruzgan province, I think we see a lot of signs of improvement. First, in the training of the Afghan security forces, mainly on the police side, because the Afghan army is almost more or less ready to take over the lead operations, and that's what they are slowly going to do. And Uruzgan will be announced, and the next tranche of transition means that our forces will be conducting these day-to-day routine operations.
When is that due to be announced?
I think I don't have an exact date, but it will be in the month of May.
And Uruzgan will be part of that announcement?
Uruzgan will be part of the third tranche. This is what the information we have. It might not be the whole province, but Uruzgan is definitely part of this. And that's, again, an evidence of the situation is improving in Uruzgan, because if that was not the case, Uruzgan would not be part of the third tranche. We should have left it for the next tranche.
Because as the Prime Minister has said today, she's waiting for that announcement to then begin the drawdown of Australian troops. So that, you expect, will happen very soon?
I think the announcement will happen very soon, but the drawdown is a process. As Prime Minister mentioned, it will take another 12 to 18 months for these forces to finish up their job first, meaning that the training should be finished altogether. And at the same time, we should make sure that we have enough enablers for our security forces who will be taken over from the Australians. What really concerns us in Afghanistan is that when the forces are leaving, we would not have enough enablers for our security forces, being police or army, to respond to some sort of emergency situation, like emergency medical evacuation in a far valley where on the road going, it will take many hours and you will lose your soldiers. I think these are kind of...
You'll still need that aerial support.
We need aerial support, we need communication, we need intelligence and surveillance. And I think that will be probably the nature of the Australian presence in Uruzgan beyond 2000.
Because even in the attack this week in Kabul, for which the Afghan security forces have won a lot of praise in the way they responded, there was the need for coalition aerial support, attack helicopters, and embedded troops as well. So there is still a need there, isn't there?
Exactly. Yes, we take a lot of pride in what our national security forces, particularly the police, did in the operation in Kabul, clearing, taking out 36 insurgents in 17 hours, which is a record. But of course, they have been enabled. And they've been assured that if situations are going to be prolonged, we have NATO forces close by, we have American forces over there and ISAF, and they will be there to help us. So that's a kind of assurance that we want to see for some time to come, and that assurance should not suddenly be withdrawn in 2014.
And would that include Australian Special Forces as well in that sort of capacity for some period to come?
Exactly, Australian Special Forces, but also Australian to be presented professionals in terms of logistic communication, surveillance, intelligence, and probably helicopter units to help there. Medical evacuation is an important element.
And that's going to be some years?
Yes, I think that's how the nature of engagement in post-2014 will be. But I don't contemplate that will be again another 20 or 10 years. That will probably slowly, gradually withdraw those elements too. But for the time being, the emphasis on our Air Force have not been there at all. And the idea was that we can start this late. So it means that even if we have an enabled Air Force capable of doing this kind of support operations, that will be 2016. I mean, that might be that year.
You sound very positive about the security gains that are being made and the capacity of the Afghan forces, but we still see, even in Uruzgan, coalition forces confined to heavily fortified bases. They're unable to walk freely on the streets without strong security presence. The Taliban seemingly able to roam at will and control large tracts of the country. Is there still a real strength to the Taliban's position?
Those are two different things. How you want to measure security in Uruzgan itself. I've been to Uruzgan myself, and if you are in a Humvee, it's a different world that you see than you're on the streets. And so that's why we think the Afghan security forces are roaming freely. Yes, they take probably a larger percentage of risk, according to our calculations, but the Australian forces, they wanted to protect themselves in the best way possible because casualties are not acceptable for them. But what the insurgents can do to Australian forces, they might not be able to continue doing that to the Afghan security. And that's when it brings confidence to us that they are not able to engage us conventionally. They might be able to do, this kind of attacks that they did yesterday or some suicide bombings. And to that matter, we have seen Uruzgan being a safe place, at least for past 6-8 months. Just save one incident of suicide bombing that one of our Auzaid colleagues, Auzaid colleague were injured, which we really regret that. But save that, we haven't seen any major incident.
Nonetheless, the general view is there will need to be some Taliban involvement once coalition forces do start to draw down in some sort of political settlement in Afghanistan. Do you see it that way? Do you think there will be some sort of Taliban involvement?
Yeah, we see that happening because one major reason or excuse for Taliban to fight is that you have the occupation forces in Afghanistan. And that might probably give them some level of support among different people in different regions of Afghanistan. So when we have transition finished, and this is what President Karzai time and again calls, that look, if you really truly are pursuing this, that the foreigners should not be in our country, so let's join, let's make a peace, so there should not be any need for international forces to be in Afghanistan. So they can leave and we can all live in peace if you are honest on your demand for the withdrawal of international security forces, because international security forces are here because you're fighting, because you're giving, you're not disassociating, you're associating yourself from Al-Qaeda. So you need two small steps. First, we are not with Al-Qaeda anymore, and then we are slowly, joining our government. I mean, it's an open society. They can take part in it. So we believe that probably we'll get, hopefully, a big chunk of reconcilable Taliban the way we are moving toward 2014.
And those talks are underway.
Those talks are underway. Those are very serious. Yes, we have the Qatar process going on. We are working with Saudi Arabia, with Turkey, to make sure that these reconcilable elements, the one who are going to renounce violence. But when it comes to groups like Afghan network, the one who are affiliated to the intelligence agencies of neighboring countries, and they actually tag groups that their survival and their existence is to be a criminal group, basically. I think with those people, we have to eliminate them, and there's no way out.
You referred there to the Haqqani network being linked to the intelligence agency of a neighbouring country, Pakistan. What role is there for Pakistan in reining in the Haqqani network to eventually secure peace in Afghanistan?
There are elements within the neighbouring countries that they think that this kind of group are strategic assets for them, not vis-a-vis Afghanistan, but vis-a-vis countries in the region, that they might be used as a bargain for different settlements in the region. So that's probably that thinking of keeping the terrorism or the terrorists as part of your asset, unfortunately, has not been completely washed away from the minds of some strategists in the region. But it will take some time, it will take some resolve on the Afghan and international community side, and it will take some more time for our security forces to be able to respond with these people, and for us to think that we might live in a region that will be marked by existence of this kind of criminal groups for some time to come. So we think basically at this time, instead of we really shouting and crying that what Haqqani network is doing in Afghanistan, which will not work because we did it in different occasions, I think we have to make ourselves strong to be ready to face them.
As I understand it, you had your own childhood experience with the Taliban when they were coming to power. Perhaps you could tell us a bit about that, and then whether you would be comfortable being part of a government that would involve, or a country that would involve some role for those reconcilable parts of the Taliban.
Yes, not only me, I might be an example of what the Afghan youth in 1990s went through, my generation. As I mentioned in different interviews, that I lost my classmates when I was studying in Mazar Sharif. I was doing medicine there. They were literally killed by the Taliban group there just because they were there. I don't know, because they were in that university in the wrong time in the wrong place.
And they opened fire on the
yeah, they were just fired in a hostel room at the university in Mazar Sharif. But then there is a reality that yes, we went through a lot of fighting. If fighting could have saved Afghanistan, the kind of brutal campaign, scorched earth campaign that the Taliban had, that might have been saved this country, which was not possible. I mean, the Afghan people, throughout these 30 years of the war, they find out, be it in the Taliban side, be it in the other side, that war is not an answer. And the more we continue, the more generation we are losing in this war. So ultimately, we have to forgive. Both sides have to go through some campaign of forgiveness, but the forgiveness might not be mistaken by surrender. I mean, the Afghan people, who have went through these dark years of the Taliban time, will never ever surrender. But we might be able to forgive the people who did those brutalities. That also for the sake of a sustained peace, because Afghanistan is the home of all Afghans, be it Taliban or be it Afghan soldiers. There might be families that they have one soldier and one Taliban, but for that family is called themselves an Afghan family, and for us to get together, probably we need a reconciliation among ourselves.
Ambassador, thank you.
You're welcome.